Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Rosa Maria. Today I have a nice, easy, quick, simple sewing project for beginners, and we're going to learn how to make this cute tote bag here. It's really cute, it's very simple, and also if you like you can add more interface to give the bag more structure, more stability, which is okay, but this is just for beginners. And also to learn how to add magnetic snap and also how to add 3 pocket dividers for this sewing project here. So grab all your tools and materials and let's get started on this project. Tools and materials you're going to be needing for this sewing project. You'll be needing fabric for the outer and lining, interface, coordinating thread, a ruler of your choice. You can use either a pair of scissors or rotary cutter to cut your fabric out, a friction pen, some fusible leftover interface, and you're going to be needing a magnetic, these are magnetic little snaps, and also you're going to be needing some sewing pins and some fabric clips. So the next step is you need to cut out 2 pieces of your outer fabric, okay, and 2 pieces of your interface. So once you have 2 pieces for each, you're gonna cut the fabric, okay? This is gonna be 35 centimeters by 45 centimeters. And you're gonna do the same thing for the interface. And if you're using inches, you're going to be using, of course, 13 3/4 inches by 17 3/4 inches. And then once you cut 2 pieces of fabric for both of these materials, we're going to go to the next step. So next, you're going to place your outer fabric onto this webbing pad here. And what you're going to do is you're going to face the printed side down, and then you're going to take your interface. Make sure that you're using the side that is very, very sticky. So here is my side here, where it's very, very sticky, it's very shining. So I'm going to face the shining, sticky stuff, face it down on the fabric. And before I start to iron, I'm going to turn it over. You're going to take your iron and then you're going to start to press the fabric to the interface. Okay. So once you finish doing one side of the piece here, you're going to do the same thing and iron the interface onto the second panel. So once both interface is ironed on to the outer fabric, we move on to the next step. For the next step, you need to cut out 2 pieces for the handles. And the size you're going to be cutting out for both of these 2 pieces will be, of course, 45 centimeters by 8 centimeters. And if you're using inches, it's going to be 17 3/4 inches by 3 1/8. So once you cut both of the pieces, now you're gonna start to create the handle. So you're gonna fold the handle in half. Sorry about all the noises. There's always constructions going outside on my apartment here in New York City. So I'm gonna press it, like I said, in half. So once you press it in half, then you're going to refold it again. And then you're going to do the same thing to this side. Fold it in half. And remember, the fold line here is a guide. And press it. Okay. So once that's done, you're going to refold again and give it a good press. So once you finish folding and ironing the handle, you're going to do the same thing to the second handle. And once both are done, we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch across here at the end and also here at the end. And we're going to do it for both of the handles. So you can see I'm going to start to sew the handle, and you can see how where I have the foot presser position. Back stitch. As you can see, we finished stitching both of the handles. I'm going to put these aside. Take out both of your outer fabric. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your ruler and then you're going to be making markings. So it'll be over here, over here. This is going to be 13 centimeters, and if you're using inches, it's going to be 5 1/8 inches. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Make your little marking, 13 centimeters, and that is 5 1/8 inches. And you're going to do the same thing to the second one. You're going to make your little markings also. So once you make your marking, so you're going to take one of your fabric clips. I'm going to put this one aside. I'm going to work on one first. You're going to take your handle here and you're going to place it right next to it, not here, but right here, as you can see. And then you're going to take a fabric clip to secure the handle, and then you're going to do the same thing to this side. You are going to put it on the side, right next to it, and clip it. So once you finish attaching both of the handles onto the outer fabric, we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and then you're going to top stitch here and here and here and here. So let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, I'm going to start to sew. Back stitch, and then again. And this is it. Now I'm going to work on the other side here. See, we stitched both of the handles onto the fabric. Once you have that done, we are going to make sure that we face the printed sides together. And once you do that, we're going to align it together. Take your fabric clips and we're going to sandwich everything together. So once you finish sandwiching everything together, next, I created a little template here. It makes it easier for me. And the size of this template is 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. Inches would be 1 7/8 by 1 7/8. I'm going to measure the corner here. Use this template to make my marking. I'm going to do the other side too. Okay. Now that we have both of these markings done, take your pair of scissors and then to start cutting the corner out. Now that we finished cutting out corners on both sides, we're gonna take it to the sewing machine and we're gonna stitch here, here, and here. Okay, and the seam allowance will be 1 centimeters, and you're using inches will be 3/8. So let's head over to the sewing machine. So at the sewing machine, again, the seam allowance is 1 centimeters. If you're using inches, is 3/8. Back stitch. Now that we finished stitching the side and the bottom, now we're going to create a box corner. So I'm gonna just open the fabric a little bit here, and then I'm gonna align the seams with the seams here together, and then I'm gonna open up the seams here too, and then I'm gonna take a fabric clip, clip it together, and you're going to do the same thing to the other side too. So as you can see, we have both of the corners already clipped. We're going to take it to the sewing machine, and the seam allowance will be 1 centimeters. If you're using inches, is 3/8. So let's head on to the sewing machine. Okay, now we're here in the sewing machine. We're going to start to sew. Back stitch. Now that that's done, we're gonna put this aside, and then you're gonna take out your lining. So your lining, you're gonna be cutting 2 pieces of lining, and the size you're gonna be cutting the lining pieces is gonna be 45 centimeters by 30 centimeters, and if you're using inches, is 17 3/4 inches by 11 3/4 inches. And keep in mind that you need to cut 2 pieces for your lining. So once you're done that, you need to cut 2 pieces of the outer fabric, and you need to cut out 2 pieces. And the size you're going to be cutting out is, of course, 45 centimeters by 7 centimeters. And if you're using inches, is 17 3/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches. So remember, you need to cut out 2 pieces for the outer fabric. So next, you're gonna cut out your pocket. So this is gonna be the outer fabric you're gonna be using for the pocket inside of the bag. So the size you're gonna be cutting is 45 centimeters by 20 centimeters. And if you're using inches, is 17 3/4 inches by 7 7/8 inches. You just need to cut out one piece. So now I just took one of my lining and I'm taking one of the outer fabric, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it here on top, and I'm going to take my sewing pins to secure it. So make sure they're here on top of the line. Secure them like a sandwich. And you're going to do the same thing to the other lining. You're going to take the other fabric and place it. So make sure that the printed side is facing down, and also for your lining, if you have a printed pattern, make sure that the printed pattern is facing up and the outer fabric print is facing down. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and then we are going to sew 1 centimeter across, and that's 3/8 inches for seam allowance. So let's head over to the sewing machine. Okay, we're here in the sewing machine, and I'm going to start to sew. As you can see, we finished stitching across both the lining attaching this top part. So next you need to take is your iron. We're gonna just move this forward, open it up like this, and then I'm gonna take my iron and give it a good press. And you're going to do the same thing to the other lining. You're going to iron it, and you see what it looks like. Let me just flip this over. So when you iron, it looks like that for both of them. So once we finish ironing both of them, now we're going to go here and top stitch across here and here for both of the lining pieces. Just head over to the sewing machine. Okay, I'm here in the sewing machine, and I'm going to start to top stitch, back stitch, so now you can see that we top stitch both of the outer fabric strip here onto the lining. I'm going to move this lining to the side and put this here to the side, and then you're going to take your pocket, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to fold here. Since I have some extra here, extra here, I don't know what you call it, but extra here, I'm going to press it. So it's about 1 centimeter. It'll be 3/8 inches if you want to press. And I'm going to refold again, and then I'm going to give it a good press. And now that I give it a good press, I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, and then I'm going to stitch 1 centimeter, 3/8 across. Okay, I'm here in the sewing machine, and I'm going to start to sew. Back stitch. Finish stitching. I'm going to place a pocket to the side, and then I'm going to take one off the lining, place it down here, and then you're going to take your ruler and you're going to measure 10 centimeters, and then you're going to mark it. I should do it this way, it's easier. Okay, so you're going to mark it 10 centimeters, that's 4 inches, and you're going to do the same thing to the other side. So that is 10 centimeters, and that is going to be 4 inches. So once you have done that, then you're going to take another ruler that you have, and I'm going to use my cutting mat as my guide. And then you're going to draw a line across where you made your markings for the 10 centimeters, 4 inches. And then you're going to take your friction pen and make a line going across. Once you do that, take your pocket, make sure that this is facing down, and we're going to use the line that we made as our guide, and you're going to align it here, and then you're going to take your sewing pins to secure the pocket to the lining. Once you secure that, we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and then we're going to stitch here across. The seam allowance will be 1 centimeters, that's 3/8 inches. So let's head over to the sewing machine. Okay, I'm at the sewing machine. I'm going to start to sew. So as you can see that we finished stitching across. Now you need to fold it back up and then take your iron and press it real good, the edge. And the reason why we're ironing because we're gonna top stitch going across when we head over to the sewing machine. So give it a good press and let's head over to the machine. Okay. So now we're here in the sewing machine, and now we're gonna start to top stitch. Finish top stitching here at the bottom of the pocket. You're going to take your ruler and you're going to measure 15 centimeters. That's going to be 5 7/8 inches. And then you're going to do the same thing on this side. You're going to measure again 15 centimeters, and that's 5 7/8 inches. Once you do that, I'm going to align, use my template again to align and make the markings. And this side here too. So once you finish dividing the pocket using the 15 centimeters, 5 7/8 inches, we're going to take it to sewing machine. You just stitch here and you just stitch here. Remember, start here and end here, start here and end here. Just go to the sewing machine. Now I'm going to start to sew. Finish stitching to divide the pockets. So we have here 3 pockets. Now that that's done, you're going to take the other lining and make sure that it's facing down with the printed side, and you can align it. Once you have aligned it, then you are going to take your sewing pins to secure the fabrics together. So now that you have both of the fabrics secured together, again, you're going to take your template that is 5 centimeters and is 1 7/8 inches, and then we are going to outline it, make a nice marking, the same thing to the other side. Once you do that, now we are going to cut the corner. So once you finish cutting out the corners, we're going to take our ruler and then we're going to do some measuring. So I am measuring here 8 centimeters, and that's 3 1/8. And I'm going to do to the other side, 8 centimeters and 3 1/8. Okay. And then I'm going to put 2 pins here at the bottom. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine. We're going to stitch here and here. So the seam allowance is 1 centimeters as 3/8. And then we're going to stitch from here to here and here to here. So we're going to leave this area here for the lining open. So let's head over to the sewing machine. I'm here in the sewing machine. I'm going to start to sew. Back stitch. So as you can see, we finished stitching here, left this opening, stitch here and left this open, as you can see, stitch here, left this open and stitch here. Now we are going to create the corners here to create that box. So you're going to make sure that the seam, the lining, the seam, I'm sorry, is aligned with the other one. And then you're going to take your fabric clips to hold things together. And then you're going to do the same thing to this side. So now that we put our fabric clips, we're going to take it to the sewing machine and stitch across. That's 1 centimeter, that's 3/8 inches for both of them. So let's head on to the sewing machine. I'm here in the sewing machine. I'm going to start to sew. Back stitch. As you can see, both sides have been sewed, and now we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, so next you'll be needing your magnetic snaps. I am going to measure from here at the top to here, and the measurement I have here is, of course, is going to be 1 inch, and they're using centimeters. It's going to be 2.5 centimeters. Once you measure it, you're going to make a little marking. And what I did was make my little marking over here. I see in the other side, I can mark over here. So I'm going to take this here and put it around the markings that I made, a little circle. And then I'm going to make these little lines. You can do that on both sides. Put this around the circle and make those little lines. And the reason why I'm making those little lines is because this is where I'm going to trim, make the opening for the magnetic snap. And then I'm going to take, of course, my seam ripper here, and I'm going to insert this here to make a little incision, and do the same thing to this side. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this here through, make sure that this is facing out. This is the male one. And then you're gonna take one of this. You wanna make sure that you also created an incision over here too. So it makes it easier to pass this through. Okay, so once that is done, then you're gonna take this, place it over, and then you can use your finger or any tool to bend it out for it, okay? And then you're gonna do the same thing to the other side. So as you can see, once you place both of the magnetic snap, you're gonna have the male and there's the female, and it snaps really nice. And let's move on to the next step. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to turn the fabric inside out, and then I'm gonna place this inside the bag, and then I'm going to align the seam with the seam here and open up the seam, and then take fabric clips and start placing the fabric clips around, and make sure the handles are inside. So once you finish adding the fabric clips around, we're gonna take it to the sewing machine, and then we're gonna stitch all around the fabric. And the seam allowance we're gonna have is of course 1 centimeters, and it is inches, 3/8 inches. So let's head over to the sewing machine. Okay, I'm gonna start to sew. Back stitch. As you can see, we finished stitching around the edge of the fabric. I'm going to pull out the lining and turn it inside out. I'm going to use the opening of the lining to push this through. Okay, now that I pull it out, now I'm going to push the lining in. Now that I put the lining inside, now I'm going to start to put the fabric clips around. So once you finish putting the fabric clips around the fabric, we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and then we are going to top stitch all around, okay? So let's head over to the sewing machine. So before you start to sew, make sure that you put the handle out of the way, as you can see, before you start to sew. So here I go, back stitch. So as you can see, we finished top stitching all around the fabric, and we finished our project. So the one thing you gotta do is the lining where we had it open, just take it to the sewing machine and just top stitch here across to seal it. And once you are done, then you finally completed making your cute tote bag with a nice magnetic snap. And it has 3 pockets here for you to put items that you like. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends and your family, and if you're not a subscriber, click on the subscribe button, and also if you click on the bell, YouTube will notify you every time I upload a new tutorial. And also on the description box below, I listed the measurements to make this bag and also the tools and materials you need with a link where you can purchase them. So again, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Until next time, bye.